How on earth does a story that starts in a college dorm room end with a predator getting locked away for the rest of his life? Well, let's unravel this unbelievable and truly disturbing story.
60 years, yeah. That's the federal prison sentence that was handed down to Lawrence Larry Ray back in January 2023. I mean, a sentence like that basically ensures he is never getting out. But for what exactly?
Just look at this list. It reads like the plot of a gangster movie, right? Racketeering conspiracy, extortion, sex trafficking, these are not small-time crimes. We're talking about some of the most serious federal offenses you can be charged with. Now, this is how the story ends, but to really understand it, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning.
And that's the part that's just so hard to wrap your head around. Because the what is horrific, no question, but it's the where. That's what makes this whole thing so incredibly chilling.
This all went down at Sarah Lawrence College. You know the type of place. Prestigious, smart, a beautiful campus. It's supposed to be a safe haven, a bubble where students can figure things out, which just raises the massive question, how could a brutal cult take root in a place like this? You know, one of the survivors, a man named Daniel Levin, he really hit the nail on the head. Looking back on it all now, of course, you see all the red flags, but for the people who were actually living through it step by step, the danger was almost invisible. And that quote is so important because it forces us to ask, how did they get from point A to point Z?
Well, the answer starts with something incredibly normal, something you or I might do without a second thought, a favor for a friend's parent.
So here it is, the moment it all began. You've got this group of sophomore friends all living together, and one of them, Talia Ray, comes to the others with a simple request. Her dad, Larry, just got out of prison and needs a place to crash for a little while. I mean, what do? Who wants to be the person that tells their friends, sorry, your dad can't stay here? It was a seemingly innocent request that literally opened the door to a decade of absolute terror.
And this is how he started. He didn't come in with threats or intimidation. He came in with comfort. The official indictment actually says he presented himself as a father figure. He started holding these so-called therapy sessions, positioning himself as this wise mentor who could help them solve all their problems.
Now, none of this was random. It was a cold, calculated process, a playbook for psychological warfare. So let's break down exactly how he did.
Okay, so the indictment lays it all out. First, he used those therapy sessions to get them to reveal their deepest vulnerabilities. Then, he used that very personal information to isolate them from their families, telling them they were broken, and he was the only one who could fix them. Once they were cut off, he started with these bizarre false accusations, claiming they damaged his stuff or even tried to poison him. And finally, through pure exhaustion and terror, he coerced them into making false confessions. It's a classic four-step brainwashing technique.
And here's where it gets truly diabolical. He didn't take on the whole group at once. The indictment shows he would target one student at a time and then turn the others against them. He weaponized their friendships, forcing them to participate in the psychological torture of their own housemates. This is the moment the trap snaps shut. He made them record these false confessions on video and write them down. So he wasn't just breaking them down psychologically, he was creating an arsenal of blackmail. It made the idea of ever escaping, of ever telling the truth, feel completely impossible. So once he had that total control, Ray's real motives became brutally clear. His game of manipulation was about to become a full-blown criminal enterprise.
So those confessions about damaging his property or poisoning him, they weren't just for control. They were invoices. He turned right around and told his victims they now owed him astronomical sums of money for all the harm they had supposedly caused.
And the scale of this is just staggering. According to the indictment, these students and their families were forced into paying him about $1 million. $1 million. They were draining savings accounts, taking out loans, all based on things they never, ever did.
But as horrific as the extortion was, it was only a gateway. The abuse was about to descend into something so much darker.
The indictment describes how Ray took several victims to a property in North Carolina. There, they were forced into unpaid manual labor while he controlled their access to food and sleep. It was slavery, and everything but name.
And then came the most extreme form of exploitation. The indictment describes in chilling detail how one young woman was forced into prostitution for years to pay off her imaginary debts. All the while, Ray was physically assaulting her and taking her money, over $500,000. This was the endgame of his manipulation: total control over a person's body, mind, and finances.
After nearly a decade, this web of lies, fear, and abuse finally began to unravel, leading to a federal courtroom.
The verdict was decisive. On all the major counts that defined his reign of terror, the racketeering, the forced labor, the sex trafficking, the jury found him guilty.
You know, this single sentence from the indictment summary really says it all. This wasn't a short-term thing. This was a sustained, decade-long campaign of manipulation and abuse against a group of vulnerable young people.
Which brings us right back to that first, simple question. This entire horrific saga started because one student asked her friends if her dad could crash on their couch. It really makes you wonder, at what point does kindness become a vulnerability? Where is the line between helping someone out and putting yourself in real danger?